Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Tao Manifesting Tarot, the most unusual tarot reading anywhere. Done tarot for over 20 years. Found out in that time, at least for me anyway, doesn't predict, but it shows your potential in the frequency message itself. You take a look, I got three cards, you find out what the meaning of the three cards is. You have a frequency. That's your potential. I don't give you rainbows, don't give you unicorns, no fantasy stuff. I focus on the human kryptonite that's manifesting, creating pictures in your own imagination, not from some desktop, laptop, smartphone, AI, nothing. It has to come from you to have any effect or meaning whatsoever. So that's what I focus on is your God-given kryptonite. Today's Tao Manifesting Tarot theme is seeing past the illusion or past the delusion. Basically, you're an observer, but more than simply watching, you're doing active viewing, okay? You are interacting with what you are seeing and feeling and hearing and touching. That's part of the process. So today's tarot frequency is your destination, seeing past the illusion. But there is a map to follow. I also use astrology and numerology. I've done them for over 50 years. Like I said, tarot for 20, numerology, astrology for 50. But before I get too sidetracked and let's get into the message here, I want to remind you, tell me what you think about the podcast, about tarot itself, about the information. Got one simple email, tau-tarot@proton.me. Tau-tarot@proton.me. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't make any difference. I will check this every single day. I've really organized it into one email address, tau@tarot or tau-tarot@proton.me. It's one of those days where I can't even read my own messages correctly. So, with that in mind, why don't we find the energetic cycle? Use tarot to tap into it. Remember, this message is sending out a frequency to you. There is a message. It should be clear, concise, precise. You connect with it. You act on it. You set the table with this frequency called tarot. So let's begin your Tao Manifesting Tarot reading with Astrologic. It's the energetic signature from the past, going back to the past, and we take that signature, update it for today's current cycle. That seems to work out pretty well. And, for the past few weeks, I've been working on something called the Conquest of America. This comes as a surprise to a lot of people because of the fact that we don't think of America that way. But if you've been following over the past few weeks, and I'm doing this because a year from now, America will celebrate its 250th anniversary as a country if we're still together, and that's up for grabs. But let's assume that we do. I want you to understand, both from a karmic, astrological, numerological cycle, how we got to where we got today. This has been a journey, and it began a long, long time ago, long before you even think, before the revolution. In fact, Adam Smith, back in 1700, he was a famous economist of the day, and he decided to put some lipstick on a pig that was called banking. Yeah, charging commissions to lend people money. That was a big problem. Big problem. Probably for the last 5, 6, 7,000 years. And in fact, primarily, not exclusively, Jewish bankers were the ones who pushed this whole idea of usury. It was called usury, charging you interest on a loan. What it did for the Jews, at least the Jewish bankers anyway, is get them kicked out over 200 countries over a couple thousand years. More than 200 countries kicked them out. And the total kickouts, because sometimes they went back to those countries, was 1,000 times. It was for the same reason, usury. What usury would do is charge people interest, and it would take over the whole city, the whole town, the whole country, and the king or queen threw them out. So that's why I say over 200 countries, but all totaled over 1,000 times for usury. So in 1700, Adam Smith said, let's change the name. Let's put lipstick on a pig. Let's call it capitalism. Ooh, it sounds so good. and he sold that. Well, around that time, the Rothschilds bought a controlling interest in something that they created called the Bank of England. The British royalty did not own it. Yeah, they probably had some shares in it, but they did not own it. It was controlled by the Rothschilds and people like the Rothschilds. And so when you talk about the colonies, the Bank of England said, "Hey, we're going to control you too. Not just Britain. We're going to control you too." That's what set up the Revolutionary War. After which, the Bank of England tried to set up a similar kind of bank here in the United States. They did it about 1791 to 1811. People weren't too happy with it. They kind of fought and groused a little bit, but they got a second 20-year lease. At the end of that 20 years, they ran into a president called Andrew Jackson who said, "No, we don't want it. We don't want it. Get the hell out of here, Rothschilds. We don't want it." They tried to assassinate him but failed. Down the road a little piece, Abraham Lincoln said the same thing. He wanted to change the economy. He wanted to get away from the Rothschilds and the central bankers. They did kill him. And they killed several other presidents. We'll talk about that as we move down the line. But all of this, way back, was the conquest of America. So today we find ourselves just as the Reconstruction after the Civil War is ending. And there's some important stuff that's going on, and we will be talking all about it. So, that said, let's get to the astrology side, numerology side. We're going to focus on something called the astrologic, and we're going to look at the years 1875 to 1880. These were significant years because we were finally healing from the bumps and bruises of the Civil War, which, as I said yesterday, was really a war against the European bankers. And Lincoln got the raw end of the deal. Nevertheless, we started to put the country back together again, and by the time we got to the late 1870s, we had put most of the pieces together. But like Humpty Dumpty, of course, we couldn't get them all together. Didn't make any difference. There was a whole different agenda that happened. And the biggest of the agendas from 1875 to 1880 was Americans began to leave the farms. They went to the cities. Same kind of thing that happened, by the way, in the 1600s and 1700s in Europe. The business people, the bankers, wanted to get the farmers out of the farming community and into the city to work for them. Plus, what it did was when they left the farm, they lost their food independence. You see, if you got a farm, you grow your own food, you have your own home, you have your independence. The bankers, the businesses don't want that. So in the 1700s in Europe, they began to move the farmers into the cities. Well, in the 1800s, right after the Civil War, that's what they started to do. So Americans, thinking it was going to be easier for them, and short term it was, they left the farms, they lost their independence, and at that point, they became slaves to the corporate group. During this time, to kind of underline the power gained by corporations, Alexander Graham Bell invents the telephone, Thomas Edison invents the phonograph. Corporate control in America grows exponentially after 1875. Banks become more powerful. And if you look at the astrology, at that point we have Pluto and Uranus squaring. I think it was Aquarius to Taurus, if I'm not mistaken. And we also have Jupiter and Saturn sextiling. So the square, Pluto to Uranus, is tough. Pluto wants evolution. Uranus wants to go fast. Revolution, they're fighting. These are the two planets, as you remember, that were in a favorable positioning when we signed the Declaration of Independence. At this point, not favorable. And so you see that we are losing our independence. 1776, Pluto, Uranus, they were kissing. They were happy. They were together. By 1880, Pluto and Uranus were very unhappy. And what happened is we slowly gave away our independence. Jupiter and Saturn gave the corporate people the upper hand. Basically, what happened was we gave away our independence. Corporations, they owned invention, which means they owned us. So this is the time where no matter what we signed in 1776, we began to willingly give it away. Let's go to the meme for today. Talk about giving it away. Looks like Toyota chairman says one EV is just as polluting as 3 hybrid cars. You know, they're selling us on this climate change, climate change. Oh, go electric, go electric. Well, we want you to go electric because they can easily shut down the electric grid and your car's just a brick. Your stove is a brick. Everything in your house is a brick. You can't flush your toilet. You can't heat water. You can't. They're in control. So they've been pushing this EV kind of stuff, which thankfully Americans have not adopted very much. But the Toyota chairman, and I trust Toyota, they put together some pretty good stuff. The chairman says one EV just as polluting as 3 hybrid cars. And to kind of underline that, we have in the upper left-hand corner the footprint of your zero emissions electric car. You see that? They're digging this huge pit. It's toxic. There are all kinds of heavy metals and everything. And then bottom of that, here they have this oil sands site in Alberta. Oil sands supply us a lot of power, but it's not electricity per se. But look at the difference between the two pictures. The top picture is the EV stuff. Oh, yeah, electric. And here in Alberta, the province that's thinking of leaving Canada, they're supplying a lot of power. Look how bad the planet around them looks. Not bad at all. The lie is being put out there in the front, and the Toyota chairman, I congratulate him for beginning to tell the truth. We do the missing link thing, and this is scary. I'm not going to read all of it to you, but it comes from a guy, Richard Kontonov Kaufberg. He wrote this book back in 1925. This Jew EU founder of the world order says, quote, "We intend to turn Europe and North America into a mixed mongrel race of Asians and Negroes ruled over by Jews," unquote. That's this guy. A book he wrote in 1925. You can read the 11 things down the list here. Looks like they're accomplishing just about everything they had planned to. Let's move on. Let's go to the tarot, huh? Let's take a look at your frequency for today. The devil. We talked about EVs. We talked about some of the things that we have given up in the past. Our independence for what seemed like easier thing. We now have to have other people grow our food for us. When you see that there's only 2 or 3 companies in the world that control the entire food supply, they can do whatever they want. And they're doing whatever they want. They're poisoning us through our food. Right now, seriously, you can go to your average grocery store. There's nothing in the store that is healthy. Not fruits, not vegetables, because they're sprayed or covered with stuff. Meats of all kinds, they're injected with artificial things, and they're going to put in more mRNA is what they're looking to do. We got glyphosate on the grains. Doesn't make any difference. There is nothing in the store to eat that is safe. You go back 150 years ago, it was fabulous. You ate organic food. That was what you ate because they couldn't screw it up. We are addicted. We gave up our farming. We gave up our independence. We gave up control of our lives because we're lazy. Oh, it's easier this way. Let them worry about it. Well, you hand your life to corporations, this is what you get. And the devil is all about addiction. And our latest addiction, technology. Let's get right down to it. Tech is just toys. Your smartphone is just a toy. AI is just a toy. But it's enough to distract you, and it's enough to make you addicted to the corporate rule. We move on to the Page of Wands. Page of Wands is opportunity, high energy. That's what's missing in life right now. People, I'm looking around, and people are not excited, enthused. There's joy that's been sucked out of our life. I remember back 5 years ago, before the vaccine thing, there was community here. People were out and about every day. We were having a good time, talking to one another, interacting with one another. It doesn't happen much, and it's going away. And we were talking about our addiction to technology. Kids think staying indoors and playing on a computer is activity. You don't see a whole lot of kids outdoors anymore. When I was growing up, that's where you'd see the kids till the street lights came on. We are being decimated, and we're doing it willingly. There is no joy, and that's because we are addicted to the devil they offer us. Final card, Six of Cups. Nostalgia. Remember the good old days? Nothing close to that now. I mean, I am astounded at how in 5 or 10 years, everything's been taken away. I don't recognize the world, and I'm not alone. But we've given it up. We've given up. We've killed our inner child, or let them kill our inner child. And now we're just living on nostalgia. And the kids coming up now, they got nothing. There is no nostalgia. We're in a prison of our own making, and we just don't get it, which is the reason we go back to our original idea at the beginning of this post, seeing past the illusion, observing, actively observing. Pay attention, like your life depends on it. We're out of time today. Thanks very much. I appreciate it as always. You guys make it worthwhile, no doubt. Please like and subscribe. Big battles on the internet for privacy, for your right to know. Please like and subscribe. Tune now the next time you and I get together and do this tarot thing. Peace and blessings.